Welcome back to SOS, guys, gals. You know, everything going on right now, I, it doesn't take much. I mean, I start swinging down memory lane here and remembering some old friends, and I, I lost a lot of people while I was deployed. I don't know if this is some sort of vlog for me or I'm just talking, and maybe someone out there might get something from this. But I think about, all the years I spent deployed and the family members I lost. I remember my mother didn't want to tell me that my friend Marlowe, he was he was my best friend, and I used to hang out at his house every day. And when I was younger, I used to hang out at his house all the time. And there's this one this one particular story that's really funny. We were in this back in the day. We were into muscle cars and everything else, and we would do Super Chevy Show and stuff like that, and all these different car shows. Right, another side of me that most folks don't know. And I used to work at a salvage yard pulling parts when I was younger. It's one of my odd jobs my grandfather got me. I used to just pull parts off cars. And heck, I worked at an audio sound and security place for a long time. I did hydraulics and airbags. Well, most folks don't know that stuff. I did a lot of things that I just I sought after what I had fun doing. And my my friend Marlowe, uh, he's an African American friend, and a lot of I never, I don't think we ever had any racial tension moments ever. And I see how the media hypes up this this stuff. Man, it's you guys are turning things into something that it's really not. And it's disturbing to make us all hate one another. It's just disturbing to force folks to hate each other. It just really does. It gets under my skin. And I mean, I look at, we all bleed the same, it's, there's really not much difference at all. And uh, I remember some of the conversations me and my friend would have. And uh, I mean, he would literally, he'd give his shirt off his back to help another person out. And uh, really, he was the kind of person that he was good to you. Is like, if you want respect, then you're gonna have to earn the same respect. And it's pretty much having honor. I mean, he had honor, and that's just the way it is. And I think, uh, I don't know why everyone has to turn us into these I, I, violent monsters. They want to portray everyone out there as a violent monster, and this is why you should hate them because of this and that. And uh, we had a situation one time. There's some really funny stories where when I hung out with him. One that I don't think it ever happened to anyone ever. Well, we got racial profiled. Okay. This is serious stuff. This is cray cray. I mean, this is seriously cray cray. So now, hey, his truck was blue. Okay, his truck was blue, and I guess there was a black male and a white male that robbed a bank in town, and they jumped in a blue pickup truck. And then his na- his neighbors called and reported us as being the ones, because we fit the description, right? He's got a blue truck. I'm a white guy. He's a black male. See what I mean? And we're sitting there, man. We're sitting there. We're having breakfast, and everything's peachy keen. And we're talking about what we're going to do that day, and stuff like that. And uh, this. we saw some images pass by out front of his house, and there's a, and we opened up the blinds and we looked outside, and there's Yukon Trucks. There's Yukon Trucks parked down the street. It's like one, two, three. What the heck? And I was like, hey, Marlo, check this out. And it's, what's going on out there, man? It's like Yukon Truck, Yukon Truck, Yukon Truck. And they're all uniform. And we saw a, he's wearing plate carriers. It's like, he's wearing plate carriers, helmet, you know, he's carrying a whole lot of tactical gear, and he's like running through the back. And there was a few more. And there was a knock at the door. And open up the door, and it's the FBI. And they, without a warrant, just because they had probable cause and someone had called it in, they flipped his house upside down. They cut everything open. They tore everything up. They literally just, it was crazy, man. I ain't never seen it. This is like movie stuff. And I'll never forget that. And he would, it's like, man, y'all are going to pay for my stuff. And we were all pretty upset about it. And it's like, cut his vacuum cleaner bag. It's like, there's a zipper right there. You can just unzip it, but they're cutting it open, and they're cutting open his couch cushions, and they flipped his freaking deep freeze over and all kinds of stuff. It was awful, man. But, you know, sometimes I always go back to that, and I think, I wonder what these folks would do if something like that had happened to them. I was profiled that day. You know, he was profiled that day. And that was just the craziest thing. And we rode around a lot. You know, we were near Memphis, Tennessee, and it's, if you're there and you're white, then you're a minority. So if you're in that area, you get what I'm saying. It's I think it's the largest population as far as Black communities go. It's the largest in the United States. And there's a lot you could look up just by, if you just Google search freaking Memphis, Tennessee, you'll find out a lot of interesting, scary details of that place. It's bad for drugs and everything else. It's just a very dangerous place to go. It's not some place you just want to go, well, hey kids, get in the truck, let's go to Walmart. No, let's not. It's not the safest place. They just throw it out there, because every night there's a murder or two or three or four. And the news, they're not making that up. I mean, it's just like, you know, so-and-so died, got shot, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, so-and-so got stabbed to death. And it's just typical news from that location. And I remember one time me and him had to ride through there, and he was on a rant. He can't be here to vouch for him because he's passed away. And like I said, my mother didn't have the heart to tell me, because so many of my family had died while I was deployed. She didn't want to tell me that Marlo had died while I was deployed. And when I come home, and I was home on leave, and I went to his place, and they're like, it's like, oh, you know, they just started crying. They said, you know, he died. And they went into detail. I don't need to go into all the details, but it wasn't good, and it was very sad. But I'd lost my buddy, and but I'm kind of glad my parents, well, my mother didn't tell me while I was deployed. I'm glad, because I already had enough on my plate already, and I was going to hear about it as soon as I got home anyway. But anyway, but he was on a rant one day, and we're riding through Memphis, and we were passing through a place called Whitehaven. And if any of you have ever been to Whitehaven, then you know it's kind of a weird place, because it's called Whitehaven, but it has the it's nothing but projects, and only there's no white folks. They call it Whitehaven. I know that sounds extremely racist, but I've got to say it because it's true, and it is what it is, bro. It is what it is, bro. But you know, we're passing through there, and there's boards on the windows, there's graffiti and spray paint everywhere and stuff like that. And he was on a rant, and I was like, because I I said, man, I feel sorry for people who live here. And he just, uh, he clicked and just started going off. He said, I don't, you know, he's like, I don't. He goes, white people have white trash, right? He's like, he said, they're trashy, you know, redneck and whatever. They're just hateful and all this stuff. And they just do bad things, beat their wives, wife beaters on, the stereotypical stuff he started spitting out, you know. It's like, hey, you know, I'm right here. I'm here in the car with you. You don't have to keep going off about it. But anyways, he had his little rant, and he said, this is white trash. This is like your version. It's like, this is the black version of your white trash. And that was the best way it ever been described to me. And I can't nobody say that to him. He's got every right to say what he wants to say. So I, I but he did say we were getting pretty close into the thicket of things, and there was some, you know, shifty characters standing around at traffic lights, and he's like, you know, make sure the doors are locked. So he's like, make sure the doors are locked. And he, but he used to tell me the craziest things, and he had met me after I, you know, later on after I'd gone through boot camp and everything else, and I'd come home, and he greeted me and hung out with me and bought me a drink or two and stuff like that. He's a good dude, and uh, he he was a good dude, but he used to tell me the craziest things, and uh, it's just to see what's going on now. Everyone turning this into this violence and craziness when we don't see what, you know, what is really the problem, what is the major problem here. And you know, you think social distancing, technically we should just be distancing ourselves from some of the media outlets, to be honest, because a lot of that's just ridiculous. And it's the upbringing. He also mentioned that. I remember him saying, it's how they're raised, it's how folks are raised. I remember him saying that so many times. He goes, if he had parents who raised him right, he wouldn't be like that. You know, he used to say it to me all the time. And it's, if his parents had raised him right, he wouldn't be acting like that. He wouldn't be thugging it, and he wouldn't be trying to, you know, steal other people's property. He wouldn't be doing that if he had parents that raised him right. And they're programmed that, you know, he says somebody programmed him that, you know, at an early age to hate this and to hate that, and he said uh, he said that goes into a lot of different things. And when it comes to racism and all that stuff, you're brought into that stuff as at an early age, and that's what breeds the hate. And that's what he used to say all the time on his rants. He didn't like it any more than I did, and the uh, I get to looking at all kinds of stuff. And I was in a conversation the other day. I know I'm just kind of rambling, and some folks like the ramble stuff, but I'm just kind of talking. I know when I was younger, I get to thinking like kids today and teenagers and stuff. You know, um, uh, you get, you know, it's folks that are, you know, really proud that of their kids and stuff, or they just are really happy to have them, or they buy them anything, you know, they just buy them anything. And I was in a conversation, my neighbor, okay, my neighbor's got a I think it's a 1930 International. And uh, I I just kind of hinted, I was just kidding, you know, and kind of not really kidding, but I said, you know what, man? I said, it'd be nice if that thing could run my field just once a month. And uh, I heard something really loud outside. I'm sitting there with the wife, and I heard something really loud. I was like, what is that sound? And I got out there, and that whole field had been cut. He's out there, he's just bobbing on that thing. He's just waving, hey, neighbor, how, how'd you get on my property? It's rude. Hey, you, how'd you get on my property? I paid him back. I got him some stuff that he needed, and I had to make a stop by over there and give him some stuff he needed. But neighborly, you know what I mean? Neighborly stuff. Love your neighbor kind of thing. That was really cool. It was just good to see that. And we were on the subject of, how he got into tinkering, and come to find out it's kind of how I got into tinkering. This is a whole nother subject, but it's kind of how your kids are raised, right? Kind of feeds into it. He's telling me it's like he his parents couldn't afford to buy him anything, and he said you see kids like driving brand new vehicles, and I was like, dude, that's like a $30,000 vehicle, or that's a $60,000 vehicle, or that's and I look at mine. I said I gave $500 for my truck. The truck. Everybody's like, man, that thing must cost a fortune. I gave $500 for that truck, and other things like we literally wear it out. We buy a vehicle and we pay it off. We haven't bought anything new in years. I mean, I think the last used the last used vehicle we bought was, I think it was our Toyota, and we got it before the boy was born, and that's how long we've been without those. We don't have car payments like everybody else, and we were kind of in that subject too. And he said, well, I told him how, well, for me, I'll put myself out there. I won't put him out there, but I'll put myself out there. Now, growing up for me, I couldn't afford a brand new vehicle. I couldn't afford a vehicle, for the most part. I had to work two jobs. I ended up working two jobs. And out of those two jobs, I raised enough money to buy my first vehicle. And the first vehicle I bought turned out to be an extreme lemon. I had to rebuild the motor. It was an old Ford Ranger, the square body one, and stick shift. And I had to rebuild that thing just so I could get rid of it. And I spent all my money rebuilding that to trade it in. And then, but when I got rid of it, it ended up getting bought by somebody else, and I took the money from that and I bought a 1966 Chevrolet stepside. And that old clunky thing. Hey, I was telling him the story. He's like, 3-speed on the column. I was like, yeah, that's all that aggravating stuff. It was so weird, man. It was like a black. Thinking back, I totally forgot about that truck, and just talking to him reminded me about my situation as a young teenager growing up, and how I ended up with a vehicle, my first vehicle. And I drove that thing for years, but I had to tell him the story. Now, I don't worry. I told the wife the same story. She knows the same story too. She laughed. I said that this was my experience with a first date with a girl. I had this, uh, it was junk. I mean, this truck was junk. People would laugh at me, man. That thing they never wanted to run. And it's like, oh, you're so cool. All right, it doesn't run. It doesn't run. That thing would never run. But first date, I couldn't get the truck to start, and I'm over here. I was like, all right. I told the girl on the date with me, I was like, you mash the clutch, and I'm gonna go under this truck with a screwdriver because I think the solenoid's burnt out. It's huh? I go under the truck, pump it. She's holding the clutch, bumping the starter, and just to get the truck off. Um, I didn't see that girl again after that. I just it's a life experience. It's something like that is a life experience, and I want my kids to see that. I want my kids to have those same experiences growing up. The struggle, so they actually experience what it's like to earn money and not have it given to them. And I don't want my family to grow up just having stuff given to them. Here, have this money and stuff. I don't think that's a good thing, really. And you really have to. I know some jobs out there, it's hard to get everything you want. It's hard to get that mega job, right? It's hard to get that job that really pays, and you might find yourself doing all kinds of strange stuff. And I had worked in a slaughterhouse for years, cutting cutting the faces off of hogs. I was on kill level 1, and that was my job. I sharpen a knife and cut a face off, and the hogs would just keep going. Buddy next to me would bleed them. He was the bleeder guy, and we experienced the first stages of the chain. And some folks would buy brand new vehicles and show up, and they're in a training session with me and say, well, this is what you got to do, and you're going to be on third shift and blah blah blah, that kind of thing, or whatever the case is, right? You're trying to explain to them their job, and they're just like, look, they couldn't make it, and they end up break time, and I'm like, hey, Bill, where's old boy? And it's like, he ain't coming back. I saw him jump in his brand new truck in the parking lot. He took off. Okay, well, guess I ain't trained nobody today then. And it's how bad you want it. How bad do you want it? And that really is, I guess that really is the best way of putting it, is how bad do you want it, and why. Uh, I don't get why break stuff, why destroy stuff, and it doesn't have anything to do with the actual situation. Why burn things? Why destroy things? And someone said, well, uh, Trump's bunkered down. And I saw that post, Trump's bunkered down. That's all the stuff going on, right? And I said, they said, well, goes to show what kind of president he is. What do you want him to do? What do you think any president's going to do? It doesn't matter who's in that White House. What do you think they're going to do? What do you want? A tactical response team on the roof with sniper rifles mowing down all the Antifa protesters? I mean, seriously, it's not the right way of dealing with situations. But people will say that, it's ridiculous, man. But it's all about it. It truly is. I agree with Marlowe years ago when he told me in that truck passing through Memphis, Tennessee, that it really is all about your upbringing and how you're raised, and to prevent folks from turning out like crazy, lighting flags on fire nuts. Anyway, that's all I got. I hope you enjoyed the story. I guess this is story time with BA. God bless you guys. Take care.